Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Feedback Friday edition of The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras, in California. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
No, and welcome to the program here on The Rundown, where we bring you 2A views of conservative news. My name is Mike Poworski. I'll be your co-host today. I'm the co-host from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most because I'm the co-host with the most. And as agreed upon earlier, my many apologies to Keith Hernandez, Major League Baseball, their attorneys and their staff for not gaining permission to use their names or likenesses in advance. So thank you. You tell about a dream. I didn't think I had to get express written permission from MLB Baseball, but oh well.
Oh, when did this need to apologize come about?
Let's just say some people contacted my people. His people contacted my people.
People contacted your people, and so you were not allowed to mention his name
without the express written consent of Major League Baseball.
Okay, we'll just leave it at that. How about that?
I was talking about a dream, and they were like, "Yeah, but you were doing it publicly." Like, whatever.
Really? Like, really?
Yeah. I can't say his name, but I can still say I dreamed I had 11 gold gloves. Can I say that?
We are, it's kind of funny on this program. It's just so you guys know, we kind of came together because, Mike and I have been doing shows for since I want to say since like 2016. Tampa,
yeah, about 6 years. Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because we've been doing shows together and mostly just talking about gun stuff, and finally decided last year, a little less than a year ago, that we wanted to start doing political stuff together and just start, basically take an opportunity to talk about political stuff, not just gun stuff, but stuff other than gun stuff. But it was kind of funny the way we kind of connected, wasn't it, Mike?
It was, and I can remember it like it was yesterday.
Like it was yesterday. So imagine, all right. So imagine like we're just to kind of give you an example of what happened. So we're at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. It's being held in Tampa, Florida. And me and Billy, you guys met Billy last week. He was there doing the video stuff. He was there and shot with us. And he and I were there on behalf of Firearms Policy Coalition. It was our first GRPC. And it was the most hysterical thing because we're here and we're in this event. And we're like, okay, this is because these are all like policy wonks. It's a much older crowd. And we're just, we're kind of like, wow, this is kind of boring.
Yes.
And so we're like, okay, well, let's find something to do. And so we're walking through the lobby, and all of a sudden we hear these guys talking trash that in such a way that made us think, well, these are our people. Am I wrong, Mike?
That's pretty much it. That's pretty much what happened. Yeah.
Matter of fact, it very much resembled something like this. Yeah, Mike, it was hilarious. And it was just, and we have been hanging out at shows and events ever since.
Yes. Many. many. And we've had a little break with COVID. And it's time to get back in. We're doing our best to put the band back together. We had about 80% of us together at SHOT Show. We'll see how NRA goes. We might get 100% of us. So we'll see how it works.
That would be phenomenal. I think really, the only ones really missing were Kevin and Major Bill.
Major Bill is the one we got to get. Kevin, it's always up in the air because of his attorney and his lifestyle, right. But he's always bonus when we get him. So yes. he's bonus level, not normal level. Major Bill would be normal level.
All right, so we got to work on Major Bill. We got to work on getting Major Bill out there.
Yep.
Hey, folks, check it out. If you are watching us, no matter where you're watching us, if you want to participate in the Feedback Friday giveaway, make sure you're watching us actually on the Rundown on Facebook or on YouTube. Real simple. The rundown.us will take you to our YouTube channel, And if you're on Facebook and you're watching us on Facebook, make sure you go over to the Rundown, look for 2A News and Conservative Views, and you'll find us there as well. Uh, Obviously, what we do is we just look for the best comment, and the best commenter tends to win the prize, shall we say?
That's
So
it. Win those prizes. Win those
exactly, and
prizes.
usually
Win.
that is actually a gift, usually from one of our phenomenal sponsors. You want to make sure to go ahead and mention them real quick, Mike.
Our phenomenal sponsors are Guerrilla Machining, Grid Defense, and the California Republican Assembly. And this weekend, the California Republican Assembly is going to be giving you 2 free absentee ballots for this coming election.
That is not true. That is not
What?
true. It is not
What?
an organization that participates in voter fraud, Michael.
It's in California. I just thought. I mean, if the Democrats can do 4 votes, why can't you do 2 votes? You know?
No. Republicans, the California Republican Assembly does not participate in voter fraud. Thank you very much. Just because we're in California doesn't mean we're of California, okay?
All right. Well, then maybe they got a T-shirt for you. Then I don't know.
All right. Well, speaking of California, well, we've got an interesting one here in the state of California. Now, you guys know that first of all, whenever someone talks about the Second Amendment, they talk about being pro Second Amendment, in particular, people on the left, they are real quick to point to whenever you have a sheriff or a candidate for sheriff who says that, well, they always assume that law enforcement is pro Second Amendment. Now, anyone who knows their difference between their butt and a hole in the ground knows that that is not necessarily the truth. In fact, oftentimes, individuals who claim to be who are part of law enforcement are willing to subvert our rights in order for that to make their job as law enforcement officers easier. They believe that public safety is more important than your rights. So in San Diego, there's actually a sheriff, a pro 2A sheriff. San Diego, oh wait, I'm sorry, let me clarify. He is a candidate. I will clarify that. He is a candidate for for San Diego County Sheriff, and he claims to support red flag laws. So, Mike, I gotta ask now: can you support gun confiscation and be pro Second Amendment? Is that a thing?
He might as well be saying, "I support due process and the Fourth Amendment, but not for minorities." That's what it sounds like he's saying. I support the Second Amendment, but not red flag laws. I think it's okay to confiscate guns from some people without giving them any due process to get it back. I think that's okay. That's what he's saying. You may not realize that's what he's saying because he doesn't want to give up the tool that he's been given recently, or that sheriffs have been given recently via their state governments giving them illegal tools. For the most part, we've had sheriffs in red states say no thank you, and we've had sheriffs and police chiefs in blue states say thank you, we'll take it. I want you to remember, though, even when you get to that point, that the elected chief law enforcement officer is just that. They're a politician. They may not be a law enforcement officer. They may not see themselves as such, or they see themselves as the elected chief law enforcement officer. Therefore, they speak for the people rather than speak for law enforcement. So you've got to be careful. Just because you're the boss of a police agency doesn't necessarily make you a law enforcement officer. It makes you a politician. Rank and file, on the other hands, they're going to tell you, for the most part, across the board, that no, we don't like these laws, and we're not going to be using them.
Well, exactly. Once again, I think you nailed it. First of all, sheriffs are not always law enforcement. At least they don't always have a law enforcement mentality. A lot of times they are, when I say law enforcement, they don't have the cop on the street mentality. Their thing is, this is a tool that I can use in order to take guns out of the hands of dangerous people. And they don't stop to think that some of those people may or may not necessarily be dangerous, but they think, well, if I can take the guns out of the hands of everybody, then I'm going to more than likely take it out of the hands of dangerous people. Meaning, if I can subvert everyone's rights, chances are I'll be able to subvert the rights of bad people. And that's just not the way the Constitution works.
If I can force everyone to hold hands and sing Kumbaya, then nobody can hold a gun and shoot each other.
Right.
It's that ridiculous reasoning. If we're getting rid of all the guns. Um,
Yep.
that's fine. Yeah. How are you going to stop them from coming in from Mexico, right? How are you going to stop them from coming in from, any place else where somebody wants to do something illegal with them? We're talking about taking away the rights of the law-abiding to protect themselves and their families. But again, just because even if you started as, maybe this guy started as a deputy sheriff there,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been 20 years, and now he wants to be sheriff. Well, guess
Right.
what? Now he wants to be a politician. That's what the
Right.
sheriff is.
Nope, you're 100% correct. And the funny part is keep in mind, folks, this is not just about the Second Amendment. This is about due process. This is
Yeah.
about right against unreasonable search and seizure. This is about private property rights. This is about the right to be innocent until proven guilty and the right to be able to face your accuser. All of these things under red flag laws are all suspect. All of them are put into
Yeah.
question with red flag laws. And once again, understanding you've committed absolutely no crime when you lose all of those rights.
Yeah, the Fourth Amendment is much more about the red flag laws are much more about Fourth and Sixth Amendment violations than they are Second Amendment violations.
Right.
It just happens to use a tool of the Second Amendment. So,
Right. If
but
they
yeah,
were taking away your
absolutely
right to
horrible. Yeah.
freedom of speech in a very same way, it would be all of the same things would apply, right? All of the same things except for the Second
Well,
Amendment.
I
Yeah.
I guess I mean, listen, you could stretch anything. I could say that it's a violation of the Third Amendment also because I don't agree to let them in my home, and stay there. So just
Right. Exactly.
they're government
So
officials.
anyway, folks, here just note to self: if you are running for office and you support red flag laws, you cannot claim to be pro Second Amendment. You just can't, because
You
that is
are a
by
Second Amendment
definition,
butt.
you can't even claim to be pro constitutional. You can't even
Correct. Yeah.
claim to support the Constitution.
Yeah.
You are basically for subverting people's rights in order to
Yep.
you make believe it's for the greater good, but that's exactly what communism and socialism say as well.
Yep. There you go.
In case y'all didn't know. All
Yes.
right, moving right along. In Virginia, there's been an effort to overturn. You guys know that as soon as Virginia went completely blue, fully blue, the first thing that they did was institute a bunch of really, really bad gun control laws. Well, unfortunately, those laws have, as they have tried to overturn those laws, they actually wound up dying in the Senate. That's right, because see, even though they won a lot of seats there, and even though they took over the House, Democrats still were able to maintain a one vote majority in the Senate, which basically meant that their attempt to overturn the overly burdensome gun laws that are there in Virginia, it failed. Now, and this is an important thing to understand because I know a lot of people right now are looking at what's going on federal and they're thinking, well, we can take back the House and we can take back the Senate. But folks, there's a way in which the process works, right? At the federal level, even if you have the House and even if you have the Senate, if you don't have 60 votes in the Senate, then you don't have enough votes for cloture, meaning to end the filibuster. And even if you get it past there, there's still this dude known as the president who has the ability to veto legislation. So it's important that we understand this process and we operate in patience, right? If we don't have 60 votes in the Senate and the White House, then guess what we need to do? We need to get those 60 votes in the Senate. And we need to get the White House. In the state of Virginia, guess what they need to do? They got the governorship, they got the House. Now they're going to have an opportunity coming up here in the next election to take back the Senate. And they're going to need the help of Virginians to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm doing some math here, Craig, real quick, because I know we've done this story before. And I guess we must have been wrong on the math when we did this before. And then we were just reading the news reports as well. It was that Virginia had maintained all of the, or excuse me, had gotten control of the House of Delegates, which is their House of Representatives, the state Senate. They did not lose the Senate. If you recall, what happened is there were not enough seats up for election or reelection for them to take over control of the Senate. They took control of everything they had available to take control of. Unfortunately, that still brought them one seat short in the Senate. So for the next 2 years, they still, the House of Delegates can pass everything they want to. When it gets to the Senate floor, it does not, the Democrats control the committees. And if they refuse to bring these gun laws before the committees, nothing's going to happen. So that's what's going to happen the next 2 years. So again, apologies for when we read this when we tried to do the math on this, 2-3 weeks ago, we spoke to you about this, and I know I did this on a couple other programs as well. I think there might have been some bad info out there because we all responded the same way. But
Well, but actually,
yeah,
Mike,
it's gonna be.
if you think about it, Mike, our original discussion was that, but we did clarify. In fact, you made it a point to
Yeah.
clarify. We did, so we
Yeah,
did talk
then,
about it.
right, and then there was some other. I guess what's happening is again being blocked by Senate committee, and I think the
Right.
only way that they're going to get perhaps these gun laws not repealed, but now that they control the governor's office, the House of Delegates, the state Supreme Court, they don't to control the state Senate, and that's just because again enough votes weren't up for grabs, enough seats weren't up for
Right.
grabs. So there's still other methods. There's via the courts. They can have these overturned. They can have it done via executive order. So there's other methods, or perhaps they just sit on their hands until 2023. I don't think that's going to last.
And that's really what
I think they need to do something.
Right.
I think they need to take every one of these laws that were passed, appeal them to the state Supreme Court to be found as unconstitutional, and then the laws could be dropped that way.
Well, I think that as opposed to necessarily executive orders overturning the laws, what they can do is they can make a decision as to how they're going to enforce them. They can say, okay, well, we're going to set up, before we enforce them, we're going to set up some regulations and keep those regulations in the bureaucratic nightmare in the bureaucracy for, months, if not a year or so,
Right.
until after the election.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to imply that the governor do an executive order eliminating a law.
Right.
The governor cannot do that if you hold him to the Constitution. But what he can do is decide, because he's the enforcement arm of the three-tiered leg of the government. Right. He can say, we will not be enforcing these set of laws. So the law still exists. There's just no enforcement of it by the enforcement arm of the government.
And before they say, well, you can't do that, I'll tell you what, that's exactly what a number of liberal governors did here in the state of California when it came to a number of different laws, specifically one relating to the definition of marriage, which passed one man, one woman marriage, which passed here in California, not once, but twice. Yeah. And you had a number of governors who decided that not only were they not going to defend it in court, but that they actually just weren't going to implement it. They just decided, no, we're not going to enforce it.
That's it.
So that that just once again that just goes to show you that they have tools available to them. I'm encouraged. I would be encouraged if they decided to actually utilize them.
Yes, indeed. Indeed.
Okay, moving right along to the next subject. Let's see here. Back to California and talk about the Constitution. Now, the role of a district attorney is to prosecute criminals, those who are accused of crimes, right? Their job is for lack of a better term, them and the sheriffs are the chief law enforcement officers in a particular county. Los Angeles County has elected a district attorney who is, I don't know any other way to say it except that he has just flat out decided that he is not going to enforce the law. That to him, the real victims in the state of California are not the people. The real victims in the state of California are actually the criminals, because they are victims of society. And there's a particular case right now in California. Now, this is an individual where the DA basically failed. And the sentence that he wound up giving this individual, who is he is a transgendered child molester. He confessed to molesting, to sexually assaulting a 10-year-old, right? A 10-year-old. And he wound up getting a sentence that was he got a few months in juvie, because at the time that it happened, he's basically 26 years old. So he got time in juvie. And then on top of it, then after that, he will wind up getting probation. It says here, Hannah Tubbs, who now identifies as a transgender female, is 26, a few days shy of her 18th birthday, when she sexually molested a 10-year-old. Now, why this case took so long to get here? Anyway, the point is that this individual basically is now basically serving probation for molesting a 10-year-old girl.
Remember, Craig, in the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate the crimes and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
So So anyway, like at 18, I mean at 17, this individual was convicted.
Yeah.
They didn't transfer it to adult court, so they spent basically 6 months in, or however, until they turned 18, and then at 18 they got let out on probation.
Listen, there's statutorily, there are things that have to occur. There's under the rules of evidence that things have to occur. There's just for instance, the right to speedy trial must occur within 180 days unless it's waived. If it's under the age of 18, that date comes down depending by state. That could be as little as 14 days, could be as much as 90 days. So there's all these things. And listen, if you blow one of these timelines and you get it wrong and you file your charges at the 181 day mark, and the defendant has requested speedy trial as guaranteed to him under the U.S. Constitution, then guess what? You've lost your case. You can't go prosecute on that crime. You can't do it. It's done. This has been a case of failure after failure after failure by your district attorney there, who has not. Or it's been confusing for him, I guess. Well, he was a juvenile and now he's an adult, and what do we do? And there was a confession, and we're not sure what to do. So you've got a district attorney's office there that is, listen, I won't say 100% to blame, right? Because the guy who committed the crime is the one to blame. But I would say that the district attorney is 100% blamed for not enforcing the appropriate, punishment on this individual. Now.
Well, in what we need to be looking at is we need to be looking at how do we make sure the individuals are held accountable when they commit a crime. I'm sorry, but at 17, 18 years old, molesting of a child, right? We're talking a child. And this isn't this individual's first offense. We're talking a 10-year-old. We're not talking about a 17-year-old.
Yeah, this wasn't an 18-year-old with a 17-year-old and they had been dating the week before. Yeah, this is not that. Yeah.
No, this is not that. This is a 17-year-old.
It's not a Romeo and Juliet
10-year-old.
case. Yeah.
And now they well, by the way, just the same individual has been once again been accused of other crimes, has been convicted of other crimes, has been known to have various mental disorders, mental disabilities or mental disorders, whichever you prefer to call it. The thing is this individual has proven that they are a danger to society, and
there is a way. There is a way,
not
Craig.
Be in a position to be able to do this again. But they are.
There is a way to deal with these people, Craig. And it's simple: is grab firmly here and then cut, and you don't have that problem anymore.
Well,
you don't have that problem anymore.
Yeah, one would think. One would think. One would think. But unfortunately, we don't enforce the law. So definitely, we're not going to go that far. Such is
just
the
a little.
Such is the state of California. Yep. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, guess what you get, California? You sometimes you gotta sleep in your bed when you make it, right, or whatever it is. There are consequences for your actions or your inactions, and now you get to suffer with one of them running around free in your society because you chose not to do the right thing.
Well, exactly, and what I'm hoping comes out of this is that the people of Los Angeles County finally realize. First of all, there's a reason why even in liberal places like California, the sheriff and the and the district attorneys, even in liberal counties, generally tend to be conservative / Republican because they know the Democrats do not believe in enforcing the law. They don't believe in crime and punishment. They don't believe in being tough on crime. They just don't. And when they're not, then you wind up with stuff like this. You wind up with massive or historic increases in crime and violent crime. You wind up with individuals like this walking the streets and victimizing people. And hopefully, once again, the people who elected this individual will wake up and put the right people in place.
That's right.
One would think. All right. Now, Mike, you remember back around, it was several months ago. It was back during the spring of last year. Maybe it was around this time last year maybe it was the summertime when at the border you had individuals who were crossing the border illegally, and there was an AP photographer there who took photos of them crossing the border. And the photos looked, well, it appeared from the photos, or at least people said it appeared from the photos, that individuals, the Border Patrol agents who were basically trying to keep these individuals from entering the country illegally, it looked like they were whipping these individuals with whips. In fact, you had the President of the United States went on air and said, we are going to enforce the law. We're going to, these folks are going to be suspended. They're going to be put on leave. We're going to investigate, and we're going to let you know exactly what happened. We're going to look into this. And the people who did wrong are in fact going to be punished. He made it a point to point that out. Well, guess what? Now, Mike, we're finding out that, well, those guys, that report on the Border Patrol agents who were whipping Haitian immigrants, yeah, those reports may not actually ever happen. Now, Mike, why do you think this report is not going to see the light of day?
Well, because it's going to make them look like idiots. Remember the first day it came out is that they were on horseback and they were going to they were whipping the minorities is what was going on. And mostly it was, I think there were Haitians trying to come across the border down there.
Yes, they were Haitians
in Mexico.
Yes,
and so the DHS secretary immediately took horses away from them. The tool one of the tools they need the most to catch people along the border. So they took the horses away from them. Then it came out that, oh, listen, yeah, about the whole angle thing. Have you heard about the angles? Depends on your perception, and yeah, that was that. There was no whipping. And they said, well, we're going to have this story. We're going to get an investigation and get to the end of it. And I think the reason they don't release the story is because it's probably full of things like, oh, no, there's billions coming across the border now because they took the horses away from us and our tools away from us that we could catch them with. So, yeah, that first thing never happened. But right now, zero's happening.
Right. I mean, you had Alejandro Mayorkas vowed before Congress last fall to conclude within a matter of days, not weeks, if agents were too excessive, right? Now, mind you,
Right.
This was last fall. It's not last fall anymore. In fact, we're almost, well, okay, it's still winter, but we're almost to
We're in
spring.
this winter, yeah.
Yeah.
We're in this winter.
It's spring. I mean, it's almost spring. And
Right.
there's no report. There's been nothing that has moved forward. Because like you said, in the end, what's going to happen is they're going to realize, yeah, no, nobody got whipped. Horses were taken away for absolutely no reason. And the president came out and said something that was incredibly stupid. Now, if nothing else,
No.
I know. If nothing else, we ought to just that ought to be a given because, well, how often does this president say stupid stuff? Just about every day.
Yeah, his butt's been wiped. Yeah.
I don't think a day has passed when he has not said something stupid.
Yeah,
not one that I can think of.
No, you are correct. And if it is a day that he hasn't said anything stupid, it's because it's a day nobody has heard from him.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what winds up happening. He hasn't said anything stupid because nobody said anything from him or heard from him. Which, by the way, leads us to our parting shot, Mike. Now let's talk about saying something stupid. The president had committed when he was running that he would appoint a black woman to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, there's more than a few reasons why this is stupid. Number one, you should be appointing someone who is, in fact, the most qualified individual to sit in that seat. I'm not going to argue whether or not they should agree with the ideology of the president or whoever's appointing them.
Most qualified.
They need to be qualified, and part of that qualification is their experience. And what's funny is when you look at the list there's a list of 8. I've seen a short list of 3. None of them really have anything close to the experience that current members of the Supreme Court had when they were being considered. The closest you have is someone who's a member of a state Supreme Court, and one individual who has been an appellate justice for less than a year. Those are probably the 2 most qualified individuals.
Yeah.
The other thing is you should be appointing someone who actually believes in interpreting the Constitution, not necessarily making up law as they go, and none of the 8 qualify there. But in this case, there is only one qualification for the president, And that qualification is you must be a black woman. Well,
Yep.
there's one person who is not being mentioned, and I know I'm not talking about the vice president because she has been mentioned. There's one person who has
Right.
not been mentioned, and she happened to have been married to the first black president. Well, we all know who that is. Okay, the first self-proclaimed first black president, Bill Clinton, his wife Hillary Clinton. Well, she's actually asked the question, "Hey, I hear you're looking for a black woman for SCOTUS." I mean, she's got
Yeah.
it down, right? If Rachel Dolezal can claim to be black, right? Can identify as black. I mean, you did see her like, her speech to black Southerners where she was talking about this, where she was talking, she had her Southern drawl, she had her black accent. You do recall that, right? Well,
Yep.
I think this is the outward appearance of that particular speech. So she is therefore identifying as black.
She's looking a little cheeky there.
She's looking a
So
little cheeky.
Mhm.
Anyway, hey, like I said, if Rachel Dolezal can do it, then why can't she?
That's right. That's right.
All right, folks. Well, hey, that's going to be it for this edition of the Rundown. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you liking, sharing, telling your friends about the Rundown. Also, if you just want to listen to it, well, then you can listen to us on wherever you get your podcast, whether it's iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, you name it, we are there. So check us out, download it, and once again, encourage your friends to do the same. With that, we're gonna be out, Mikey. Don't fall asleep on us.
It was a pleasure having you. No, I'm serious. I've got the here, look. Let me show you again. I've got a light here. Let's see, you guys can see this. It's right here in my face.
Oh.
It's and I'm trying to balance color and light, and this light is right in my eyes. So every time I glance from here to here, it's in my eyes. And so
Okay.
it's rough.
Well, that's good. That's good to know, Mikey. Anyway, folks, y'all take care. Have a good time. Have a good weekend, and we will see you on Manic Monday.
See you Monday. Have a good weekend.